We are less than 1 week away from the NFL training camp opening up, and we are super, super, super excited, especially as Colts fans, because there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of really promising things that can come out of this season. We're going to talk about that, all that, and more on this video. What's going on? It's Elijah from Sports Talk Indy, where we cover all things Colts every single day, and we're talking about training camp, but more specifically, some of the things that are intriguing, or also some of the things that we have come to notice that really need to be addressed, or things that I expect to happen in this upcoming training camp. The first one is the obvious, and the first one is, can Anthony Richardson stay healthy? Now, to be fair, when this injury started, we were not expecting to see him until training camp. He was not expected to be able to make OTAs. He was not expected to be able to make mini camps, any of that, any of the voluntary programs. But his deadline was to be ready for mini camp, for training camp, excuse me. Now, that being said, we did get to see a huge preview of Anthony Richardson in OTAs. And while it kind of ended on like an abrupt note, that was a little bit of alarming, honestly, to see Anthony Richardson not be able to continue because of his shoulder injury, I think was kind of shocking and very concerning for a lot of people, myself included. So, what does this mean? I think that from everything that we've seen and read, and all indications point to that Anthony Richardson is now fully recovered. He was dealing with a little bit of soreness because it was a muscle that wasn't used to the extent that it was for the previous several years. That being said, Anthony Richardson does have a extensive injury history. From hamstring injuries to what we saw, which was, I don't blame him for the concussion. There's nothing you can do about that. That was just a everyone, it happens. So there was that, but there was also some of the other injuries that he dealt with throughout college, and even, dealing with just taking bigger hits, but also some of them that were instant acceleration injuries or injuries of that nature. So for me, the big question going into the training camp is, can Anthony Richardson both stay healthy, and can he live up to the expectations that we have set for him? Whether or not that's fair to him, we as Colts fans are fatigued from the constant quarterback injury dating all the way back to like 2016, 2017, in that area where we really started to see some things come up with Andrew Luck, and then obviously missing a whole season, and then he comes back for a whole season, and then is out and retires. And I think since that, Chris Ballard has not done a good job of being able to find a replacement at quarterback. I do think the buck stops with him, and I think that a lot of that. So hopefully, going on. Hopefully this is the answer. But I do believe that Anthony Richardson has the potential to be able to live up to the height. His arm looks good. All of the videos show that looks really good. And as long as he can keep his head in the game and be able to execute plays, he's got the receiving core around him. And that brings us to the second point. Who is wide receiver two? Because we know wide receiver one for the time being is Michael Pittman Jr. But who's wide receiver two? Is it going to be Alec Pierce? Is it going to be Adonai Mitchell? I think Josh Downs, while I do think that he's extraordinarily capable of having 1,000-yard season, and even the connection between him and Anthony Richardson already is very promising and encouraging, I don't know what that means as far as he plays more of the slot. But going back to our wide receiver two position, who's going to be the guy running wide? Who's going to be the guy going deep, running the deeper routes, while Michael Pittman Jr. generally runs the mid routes? Who's the guy? We've not had the guy since T.Y. Hilton left. And Alec Pierce has statistically run more deep routes than almost any other wide receiver as far as percentage of routes run, that he's just basically running a fade or a deep post. Who is the guy now? Is it going to be Adonai Mitchell? Are they going to make the switch over to Adonai Mitchell immediately, or are they going to see if Alec Pierce in the final year or two of his contract still has the capability to be able to hold up and to be the guy? Question three is kind of an easy one. We covered it in a previous video, but who's running back to? You've got Evan Hull, you've got Trey Sermon, you've got some of the other guys coming in, but who is it? Is it this new guy, Penix? Like, who is this guy? Who is going to be wide receiver two? Now, my inclination reigns towards Trey Sermon, and that's simply because of his yard per carry. His efficiency is really high, and he's got experience. But don't sleep on Evan Hull. Evan Hull has a lot of promise and is a very unique back, and one that we've not seen. There's not enough on him to really have expectations, whereas we have several seasons on Trey Sermon. but Trey Sermon's also bounced around a lot. So I think that'll be an interesting one. And are the Colts going to want to like develop Evan Hull, or are they going to ride the 1 year deal of Trey Sermon and look for someone to be that wide or to be that running back too in the future? So those are our offensive questions. And there's another one that I think is leaning, but I think it's kind of already solved itself, and that's tight end. One is that Jelani Woods. Is that going to be a guy like Kylan Granson or Will Mallory, or is it going to remain Mo Alley Cox? And Mo Alley Cox is going to be able to stay healthy and eat up that $7 million cap hit that he's taking. We don't know. But what we do know is that it seems to be Jelani Woods for the taking. But the Colts have also run they've not had that tight end one in a long time since Jack Doyle. But even then, he shared it a lot with a lot of other people, including Mo Alley Cox. And so I think that there's a very big possibility that we do get the tight end one that we've wanted since the days of Dallas Clark. And I think that we have that possibility this year in Jelani Woods if he's able to stay healthy. A lot of these questions remain: can these guys stay healthy? You've got the consistent guys like Michael Pittman Jr., but you've also got the inconsistent guys. And so I think that for me is a big question, but I think my gut tells me, and everything that I'm seeing is pointing towards that already being Jelani Woods for the taking. But we'll see as it goes on. Now we flip over to the defense, and this one has come with an offseason of potential questions, and the first one being, can the secondary hold up? Now, it's a difficult one because you don't have joint practices for the first little bit, but who's cornerback two? That's the big question for me. Is it going to be Dallas Flowers? Is it going to be Juju Brents? Is it going to be one of the guys that they drafted? Who is it going to be? And is it going to be one of these undrafted free agents that kind of look really good? Is it going to be a guy like Micah Abraham? Is he going to just show up and show out as the Isaiah Rodgers replacement, as many have deemed him? I think it's very interesting. And this is going to be one that I think is going to rotate around for the first little bit of the season while guys get ready, get set, and get developed and stuff. I'm very curious. So that for me is a big question. Who is cornerback two? Because obviously cornerback one goes to Kenny Moore, but he plays the nickel corner. So you've got to have guys who are going to be able to run deep, run wide, and stay close and stay on him. I'm very curious to see where this is going to go. And this is one of my most intriguing questions, and one that we've covered ad nauseum this offseason. So who's cornerback two? Cornerback one obviously being Kenny Moore. So the next question for me is this defensive line going to hold up to the hype? Because for me, the defensive line has been the most heavily addressed position for the Colts this offseason. Almost every single guy on the defensive line has either gotten a new deal or is under contract for at least the next season or two. You got Samson Ebukam, you got Kwity Paye, they even brought in Tyquan Lewis, they brought in Roquan Davis, they brought in DeForest Buckner on an extension. They got Grover Stewart on a re-sign, and they spent their first pick in the draft on Laiatu Latu. That is a large, large list of guys that they've brought into those positions when they did not really spend anything on the rest of the defense as far as notable picks or free agent signings. So here's my prediction. My prediction is that coming out of this, that the Colts are going to either realize that they've got some studs, or they're going to have to make a really late in the year signing on a guy like Justin Simmons or one of the other remaining free agent safeties or corners that are available. Because if you get to this point and you're not confident in who you have and you're not going to be able to hold up, you're wasting valuable time with valuable players. Guys aren't going to be young forever, and they're not going to be good forever. I think this is a key time to be able to figure out what you've got. I don't think the Colts are going to be Super Bowl champions this year, though I would be lying if I said I didn't have hopes, because I think that it's possible. You see teams like the Colts come in and be able to do a lot of things, being the underdogs in almost every single game. This team's predicted to be an 8.5 win team. I personally believe they have a real shot at being an 11 or 12 win team if they can keep everyone healthy together and really be able to build on this culture and not get where we saw them in 22-23. So those are my big questions. Those are the questions that I think need to be answered come training camp. We've got just a couple of weeks of training camp, and then we go right into the preseason. I think it's going to be really, really, really encouraging, challenging, and exciting, and I'm all here for it. So be sure to subscribe and follow along, because we are going to be covering the Colts every single day as training camp starts. As we get on with the season, it's going to be so electric and exciting, and I'm excited to have you along here for it.